Turkish police have fired gas at protesters in a town near the Syrian border, which was the scene of a deadly double car bombing a week ago. The unrest follows similar clashes in Istanbul and Ankara. Demonstrators are angry over Turkey's support for the Syrian rebels, which they say is putting Turks in the firing line. Let's speak now with journalist Emmanuel Ochsenreiter, who's covered the Syrian crisis extensively. Mr. Ochsenreiter, with several deadly cross-border incidents claiming Turkish lives recently, surely Ankara has the right to take action to prevent a spillover of the Syrian conflict.
Well, Turkey has not just the right, it has the obligation to prevent the spillover. But if we look how Ankara is acting politically, we see that Ankara is doing the contradiction of this right now. Turkey is putting fuel into the fire of the conflict. And when now the Turkish demonstrators, the Turkish people is upset because of what is happening on the Turkish side, it's their full right. Because it's like to, let me say, to invite a fire starter into your house because you want to send him later to your neighbors, and then you wonder that the fire starter starts putting fire on your own house. We have to see that Turkey has a 900-kilometer long border to Syria, and we have to see that Turkey doesn't do anything to prevent terrorists and mercenaries crossing the border from Turkey to Syria. In contradiction, Turkey even supports those terrorists. There are training camps, there are Turkey is giving supply in a lot of means, and Turkey is right now acting like a hostile power towards Damascus.
Speaking of Syria, what do you think Turkey is trying to gain by supporting the Syrian rebels?
Well, we have first to distinguish really between the Turkish government and the state of Turkey, or the Turkish people. The Turkish government right now, I think there are several interests they have in this conflict. Maybe the most important interest at the beginning is that Turkey is the most important NATO member in the region, and that Turkey does the job of the NATO. Turkey is acting as the West wishes Turkey to act, because Turkey also gets money from the West for what they do. But what is also important is to see that Prime Minister Erdogan and his government, they share something like what we call the Neo-Ottoman dream, that Turkey will become again a leading power in the region. But what we shouldn't forget, there are also other reasons. So we have reports here, we published already reports about Syrian rebels disassembling industrial compounds in the Aleppo industrial area and transporting it illegally to Turkey to weaken down competition. The Aleppo industrial area is weakened down, so even when comes peace back to Syria, there will be not a lot of industry anymore. I think this should also be mentioned, this is also important.
Radical elements have been gaining popularity among the Syrian opposition recently. Now, how's foreign support for the rebels affecting extremists?
We should finally stop right now to distinguish the rebels in nice rebels and in bad rebels. To say, oh, there are radical elements, but there are also the nice elements, the democratic and the liberal elements. The FSA, the so-called more moderate rebels, claimed a couple of times in the past that they consider the jihadists from the Al-Nusra front, the Al-Qaeda troops, as their comrades in the fight against Damascus. So if the West tells us now, or Turkey says, we support the moderate rebels, it's not true, because nobody can assure that a gun comes from the hand of a so-called moderate rebel in the hand of a so-called extremist rebel. I think we should stop to distinguish finally, because this is a big lie.
So then I guess the question beckons, does Turkey support peace through diplomacy? I mean, it's voiced some opposition to the upcoming international conference on Syria, saying it will simply buy Assad more time.
Well, first of all, it is not up to Turkey to decide who is governing Syria, and if there's a President Assad or not. It's the question, it just refers to the Syrian people. But Turkey right now could do a lot to stop the violence in Syria. It would be very easy for Ankara by closing the borders, by sending home or arresting or fighting against the terrorists right now on Turkish soil, waiting for traveling or for infiltrating to Syria. Ankara could do a lot. They don't do anything. In contradiction, they put fuel into the fire and they make the fire much bigger. Now, what happened is that the fire came back to Turkey with the bomb blasts we are also talking about. And the Turkish people, of course, knows that this is a horrible politics, violating the security also of the Turkish people and at the end violating the security of all the people in the region.
Live from Berlin, there was a journalist, Manuel Ochsenreiter, who's covered the Syrian crisis extensively and sharing his thoughts with us.